What's up, everybody? Well, that was just mad. That was mad. Obviously, people who are watching this back later on may not realise I'm streaming this as soon as the Euros 8 PM games are over, and that was mental. Have to say, really enjoyed the 8 o'clock games there tonight. France 2, Portugal 2, Germany 2, Hungary 2. And what does that mean? Well, that means that England are going to be playing Germany at Wembley in the last 16. So we've seen this story before. Can England change it? Will they be able to find a way? I guess we'll find out next week, won't we? Look, ladies and gentlemen, how are you? Nice to see you all. Hope you're well. Jared, nice to see you in the chat. Mr. Morrissey, how are you? Liverpool 1708, Brooklyn, Sonny, Derek, Copbite, and everybody else that's in the chat as well. Anybody who I've missed, how are you? My nan's got bunions. Why is it that that name always makes me laugh, mate? Every time I see that name, it makes me laugh. Every single time I see the name, it just makes me smile. I don't know. Bonjour, mate. Bonjour. How are we? Naldini can't go. We'll talk about it all. Don't worry about it. Stephen, nice to see you in as well. James McCalden, lovely to see you, buddy. We'll wait for the chat to fill up a little bit. We'll just talk amongst ourselves here for a few minutes. Not going to be great if you're watching this back later on, but there you go. Am I a little bit out of sync? Because my computer does this to me every so often. I don't know if the stream's out of sync or not, but I don't know. Am I coming through okay to you guys? On my end, it looks a smidgen out of sync. And if it is, we'll blame Connor. Oscar, how are you, buddy? He's definitely not the next Charlie Adam anyway. Well, you know, that's the immediate worry, Brian, isn't it? Whenever you think about... audio is fine, good stuff. Whenever you think about Liverpool signing a Scottish midfielder... You know, we have had some belter Scottish players over the years. We have one now with Andy Robertson. But, you know, you think of Charlie Adam, don't you? You know, it's the one thing that you just go, oh. But John McGinn ain't Charlie Adam. And we'll talk about that as the stream goes on. Right, how have we got? I'm doing good, Sonny. Jake, nice to see you in as well. Thoughts on Sancho nearly signing for United? It was pretty much always likely to happen, to be honest, mate. I mean, they put the hard graft in last year. A lot of the terms were already agreed with the player. I mean, it's just a matter of United and Dortmund getting things sorted out, and yeah, it should be good. What do I think about Renato? I like him. I think he's a decent player. I've said this to you before. Renato Sanchez is definitely the type of lad I can look at and see why Jurgen Klopp is interested in him, because you know, he's a bit of an undervalued, underappreciated asset. You know, I said it numerous times, the same thing. He burst on the scene, a young lad that a lot of people had high hopes for, and then kind of fell off a bit. But that often happens with young players. And now at Lille, and tonight again with Portugal, he's starting to show what he's capable of. So yeah, Renato Sanchez, look, he's a very good footballer. And he is somebody that we know Klopp has been looking at. But I'm not going to sit here and say I know of any confirmed interest in him with regards to a bid or anything like that. But, you know, again, I don't think Lille will be short of offers for Renato Sanchez with the tournament he's having. And, of course, the season he had with Lille in France. We'll get to talk about McGinn, we'll talk about Phillips, we'll talk about Kabak as well. There's lots of stuff for us to go through tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just giving people a couple of minutes to come in because I know a lot of people will be watching the football and probably only getting notifications and hopefully going to come in and join us for this one. I hope anyone who came over to That's Football earlier on enjoyed the stream with myself and Mark. I mean, Mark hates chickens, confirmed. If you're on Twitter, you'll know what I mean by that. Bernadette, nice to see you in the chat as well. Renato Sanchez was class, said Yusuf he was. Nice to see you again, Yusuf. I hope you're well, buddy. Is Nathaniel Phillips going permanently or on loan? I'll kick off. We'll talk about Nat Phillips. Let's just call him Nat. Right, let's start with the centre-back situation. So let's start with Nat Phillips, ladies and gentlemen. Let's have a little conversation around Nat Phillips. It's not a shock. I said this to you before. Everything that I've been led to believe suggested that Liverpool were willing to cash in on Nat Phillips if the right offer came in. Will this be a good move or a bad move? I don't know. We have Virgil van Dijk, we have Joe Gomez, we have Kanade, we have Matip, obviously, and then we have some youngsters. But here's something that myself and Connor mentioned earlier on. So if Liverpool do indeed sell Nat Phillips, and there are a couple of clubs, Burnley, I believe one of them, Brighton, a few others who are interested, and Liverpool look like they want to do business somewhere between 10 and 15 million. Could be in the lower end with add-ons, I'm not sure. But there's two things we have to keep in mind here. Yes, look, he did really well for us last season, and he'll always be loved for that. Seems like a really, really good fella. But if we're really being honest with ourselves, he's probably not most suited to the way Jurgen Klopp plays football, the way our defensive line sits. So, if the right move comes in, you have to think of the player in these scenarios as well. Because he's going to want to go establish himself in the Premier League. He probably thought he'd be playing Championship football this season because it looked like he was going to go to a Championship club in January, and then that didn't happen. He finished the season with Liverpool. And now look at where his career could be going. He could end up a Premier League footballer on a regular basis, and I'm sure that that's something that massively appeals to him. So, yeah, look, if he does move on, you know, I'd wish him all the best and a massive thank you for what he did to help us get Champions League football, and we'll always have a soft spot for Nat Phillips. But, you know, 10 to 15 million is not to be sniffed at. But what does make it interesting, right, is if it happens, so if 10 to 15 million happens, grand. But something else that I'm going to mention in a couple of minutes makes it a little bit of a head scratcher as to why we're not signing Ozan Kabak. Because I said to you guys last night that Kabak could be available quite cheaper than we originally expected. But I've got a bit of news for you coming up later in the stream about apparently why we aren't taking up the option to sign Ozan Kabak. And who made the decision. So again, bear with me, but we just want to talk about Nat Phillips here for a second. Capo Khan, nice to see you in. Brighton would be best for Nat, said Brian, and said Glyn. I agree. His style is probably more suited to a Burnley, if I'm being really honest with you. You know, last ditch defending, deep defending, headed clearances. But if you want a more progressive style of football, you know, if you're that type of player and you want to play under a manager who wants to play progressive stuff, then I'd say Graham Potter at Brighton is a good shout. But wherever he goes, you know, it's just great for the lad that he's going to get a Premier League move, because he showed in the last 6 months of the season with Liverpool that, you know, give him the opportunity, and he's shown what he can do. And he wasn't too bad at Stuttgart. I'd seen a few bits and pieces when he was on loan there. And yeah, look, 10 to 15 million for a player we probably would have maybe let go for 2 to 5 million a few months ago. You know, it just goes to show you what a couple of good performances in the Premier League can do for a career. And most importantly, Nat Phillips has got this for himself, and he deserves all the plaudits because he took his opportunity with both hands. And yeah, look, what a lad as well. What a lad, Nat Phillips. So wherever he goes, if he does move on, of course we wish him the best, but 10 to 15 million pound is definitely not something that we can sniff, turn our noses up at, or not to be sniffed at, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. Big Nat is a proper defender, said Mr. Jury. He's a throwback defender, isn't he? He's an old school defender that probably could have played in almost any era. I mean, you know, as soon as I look at him, you think Terry Butcher with the bandage wrapped around his head. That type of defender, not afraid to put his body wherever it hurts. But I think maybe we've underappreciated other aspects of his game as well. He was marshalling that defence when it was himself and Kabak, or himself and Reece Williams. He was the leader in that defence. He was organising it. And, you know, he's got many fine attributes that wherever Nat Phillips goes, I think he'll do all right. So, yeah, that's just a little bit of opening news there around Nat Phillips. So wherever he does go, of course, we wish him the best. But as of now, he's a Liverpool player. Vernon said, Leicester, 2 big signings. Daka might come bite us in the Premier League. Good move for Patson Daka, good move for Leicester City. But I've said it before, I'll say it again, Vernon. There's 2 reasons why he may not come to Liverpool. Well, he won't be coming to Liverpool. Either we wanted him and he looked around and thought, I prefer my chances at Leicester City. Obviously under Brendan Rodgers, good manager there, a good forward-thinking manager who I'm sure will try and make use of Patson Daka's many attributes. Or Liverpool just weren't really interested, and he was on the list of people that Klopp was looking at, but the main target may lie elsewhere. But whatever happens, look, it's a good bit of business for Leicester, I won't deny that, and I'd have had no issues if we signed him. So again, Patson Daka, I wish him all the best. Have you seen the video, by the way, of Kanade with the Liverpool birthday cake and the lads with the pyros and a little bit of fun and stuff? So yeah, it's great on Kanade as well. A couple of other bits and pieces. So Kanade and Mohamed Salah will not be heading off to the Olympics, ladies and gentlemen. Liverpool have put the kibosh on that one. And I have to say, I think it's the right decision. Because right now, I don't think the Olympics, my own opinion, I don't think the Olympics should be taking place. Because, you know, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. And if you were to create a super spreader type event, that's it, isn't it? Pretty much. I mean, all the finest athletes and bodies in the world coming together in an Olympic village for a bit of, you know what I mean, behind the scenes, because they do hand out condoms, by the way, at the Olympics. John Oliver was saying this on his show the other night. So yeah, I mean, this is where I suppose this is where the best of procreation takes place. So yeah, it's one big party, but I just don't see it being the right time. But nevertheless, it is going ahead. But we have put the kibosh on Kanade and Mohamed Salah going to the Olympics, so they won't be going, which I think is the right decision. I don't know obviously Kanade too well, but we know Mohamed Salah is an extremely proud Egyptian, and I'm sure he would have been more than happy to go represent his country at the Olympics. But I do think it's the right call by the club because, you know, we've had enough injuries, we've had enough illnesses, we've got to look after the players' health as well. And I think Liverpool probably feel that they can do that to some extent when he's in England under Liverpool's medical. Again, this sounds like I'm casting shade on the Egyptian medical department, and that's not what I mean at all. I just mean it's safer. That's basically where I'm going with it. What else we got? Pellegrini before McGinn said Mario will get to John McGinn in a few minutes. I think Pellegrini may sign a new deal though with Roma. At least that's what somebody said to me the other day anyway. I haven't got to the McGinn stuff yet, don't worry. Olympics is basically the Eurovision then, said Tobias. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It feels like it's been a little bit forced through, and the really shocking thing about the Olympics is that, let's say Tokyo and Japan decided that it wasn't right and they didn't want to do it. They actually aren't allowed to cancel it. They aren't the ones with the power in this decision. The power lies with the IOC, who, yeah, hold all the cards here. If anyone's going to pull the plug, it would have to be them, and amazingly, not the Japanese government or Tokyo. Olympics will be bad for FPL. I love that. There's always an FPL head in the chat, Brooklyn. Well played. And you're right, yeah, would be a bit shit, because we're already probably going to have players coming back from the Euros and the Copa America who will be behind the rest of the players who aren't away on international duty, who will return to pre-season earlier and obviously get minutes under their belt and up their fitness, whereas the lads coming back from the Copa America and the Euros will have the holiday and they'll be later joining the group, so there is that as well. Would you rather Bellingham or Musiala? Bellingham. Absolutely Bellingham, 100%. And now Musiala looks like a baller, Bob, don't get me wrong, but I'm sold. I'm all in. I'm all in on the Bellingham train. Double chew on the Bellingham. Why is there always a dickhead that comes into the chat with just GGMU? Mate, we get it, you support United, nobody cares. And I don't mean nobody cares about you, I mean, whatever. Come into the chat and go GGMU, sound. No issues with it, but it's an odd thing to say. Why not contribute to the chat, Connor, and we'll have a bit of fun, mate. You know, you're welcome into our chat, buddy. Nobody cares who you support. Just come in, have a bit of fun, and we'll get a bit of back and forth going. Where do you think we will finish next season, Craigie boy, said Anastasia? Hopefully at the very top, but it's very difficult to predict anything when we don't know what squads the Premier League clubs are going to be working with. Now, what we can all do is just take a second, just a moment out of your day, to point and laugh at Spurs once again, because Julian Lopetegui is the latest manager to go, Spurs, major offer, loads of Wonga. Nah, don't fancy it. Gonna stay at Sevilla, mate. Couldn't be arsed. They really are just making an absolute mess of this managerial search, aren't they? I mean, as I said to you guys last night, I mean, I've turned it down. I'm sure half the chat have turned it down. Anybody else turned down the Spurs managerial job? I mean, nobody wants it, which is mad when you consider it's a London club. They probably pay decent wages to the manager. Fantastic new stadium. But yeah, it seems to be the poison chalice for whatever reason. It's weird, isn't it? It genuinely is weird. Normally you don't, you go for a manager or you go for a player, it's because you're confident that you'll get the man or you get the player. And yeah, normally the approach is the last part of the jigsaw, but there's just one man after another. No. Nobody wants it. So cue Rafael Benitez may be coming in there after the Ev turned their noses up at a manager that's quite frankly far too good for Everton anyway, so there you go. Right, let's get to talk about John McGinn, ladies and gentlemen, because I know that's what a lot of you guys girls are coming in tonight to talk about. So, what we do know is this: Jurgen Klopp likes John McGinn. Jurgen Klopp likes the cut of his jib, for want of a better phrase. And look, John McGinn's a tidy footballer. Don't think many of us are going to argue about that. Had a good season for Villa. He was bought by Aston Villa from Hibs for like £2.25 million or something like that. But here's where I draw the line on the John McGinn links. Will any of us really feel comfortable if Liverpool paid £45 to £50 million for John McGinn? Because I know I certainly wouldn't. It would be overpaying in my estimation by quite a considerable sum. Which sounds like I'm having a dig at McGinn. I'm not. He's a quality footballer. No argument there whatsoever. but he's a 20 to 25 million pound footballer. He is not a 45 to 50 million pound footballer, in my humble opinion. So I don't think Liverpool will do anything more than perhaps keep an eye on him, because there's no way on earth we're going to be spending that much money on John McGinn. Let's be honest here. We've seen the calibre of midfielder that 45 or 50 million pound could buy us in this market. And with all due respect, I know you pay more money for a Premier League transfer or a British player, but I just don't see it. I just don't see any way in God's green earth that we go to Aston Villa and go, here you go, here's £50 million for John McGinn. And also, you've got to think about this from Villa's side. Like, they've made some good signings, but they could potentially lose Jack Grealish. And if they're going to lose Jack Grealish, they're not going to want to lose McGinn as well, who's been a huge part of Villa's development and progress. So, yeah, I mean, no problem with the player, decent signing, but no way would we pay 45 or 50 million. It just wouldn't happen. Hopefully, most people can see that. Maybe we can seal Son from Spurs. He's close to a new deal with Spurs, so they've been talking since January, and it's thought that Son will sign that deal very shortly, so I think he'll be staying at Spurs, Vernon. Bellingham or Saka? The answer to any question you're going to ask me that doesn't have the name Mbappe in it is going to be Bellingham. Bellingham, Bellingham, Bellingham. So yes, that's the one that I want. Brooklyn said, what about Kingsley Coman? Again, it's an interesting one. Actually, you know, let me just take McGinn down off the screen, because people are going to be coming in and hear me talking about Kingsley Coman. But yeah, it's an interesting one, Coman. I mean, again, similar price point than we're speaking about now, but this is maybe where my foreign bias comes into it. I would feel far more comfortable around maybe dropping €50 million on Kingsley Coman than I would about Liverpool paying 45 or 50 million pound for 26-year-old John McGinn. But maybe it's because I know that they got him from Hibs for 2.25 million pound. Maybe in the back of my mind, that's kind of skewing this for me a little bit. But I've not seen anything to back up those links to Kingsley Coman. I've not seen anything from any of the journalists or read any articles that seems to suggest that there's genuine links to Kingsley Coman. Fee aside, would you want McGinn? If McGinn was available for 20 to 25 million, yeah, I'd say John McGinn could do a job. Because he has a good engine, he can pick out a pass, he can play from deep, and he can get forward on the front foot. And he's had a very good season. So, player-wise, the price probably isn't the issue with me. Which probably shouldn't be. Because I shouldn't really give a shit what Liverpool do or do not spend on the player. As a fan, I suppose all I should be looking for is for Liverpool to strengthen. And the money should really be neither here nor there, as long as we look at the transfer window at the end of the window and go, Liverpool have strengthened, we're in a better position than we were before the window started. But unfortunately, we know that that's not the way our brains work as football fans, and the price point or the price tag is often used against the player as a yardstick to beat him with. When we signed Gini Wijnaldum, similar thing. Everybody's saying we overpaid for him. When we signed Bobby Firmino, similar thing. Everybody said we overpaid for him. But we didn't. And they both shown what class they have. So, yeah, I mean, maybe this is me being a little bit snobby. Maybe this is me kind of looking at McGinn and going, he's not a £45 million player. But if his name was McGintree, or, I don't know, McGinnatinho or something, maybe I'd be thinking a little bit differently. Which is why I like to challenge these type of things in the conversation. It's why I like to bring them up, because sometimes we do all have our own inherent biases built in. Who's a realistic signing for us? Do you know what, Anastasia? The tough part right now is knowing the positions that we want to strengthen. That's where I struggle with. I feel like, did I miss a super chat a minute ago? Let me scroll back up. I did. Chris said, I love you on That's Football and would love to see the Ballbridge FC channel, meaning football chat once a week, talk, happy days. Happy birthday to the missus. Thank you, Chris. Very kind of you, mate. Yes, my missus does turn 40 on Friday, so I won't be making any content on Friday. We're going to be spending the day together, and she'll be spoiled rotten as she deserves to be. But we will be putting out 2 videos on Friday, so get yourself over, by the way, to the Anfield Agenda Instagram account if you want to throw in a question for the unpopular opinion video that Connor and I are going to be filming tomorrow. So it is up on our Instagram account right now. Go over there, check that out, and if you have a question or unpopular opinion you'd like me to answer, whack in the question and we'll do our best to get to it. So we're recording that tomorrow. That'll be going out on Friday. And also the latest One Football news video. That'll be coming out on Friday as well. So even though I'm not streaming, there'll be 2 videos for you guys to look at on Friday. One at lunchtime, one in the evening. Any word on Nico? Right. What's the latest on Nico Williams? There's one more super chat I need to get to, and then I'll come back to that question, dude. 1 second. There was a super chat down here. Jens Kmiel Mucker, nice to see you in the chat. You're very kind, buddy. Always dropping in with a super chat. Do you think he'll finish above United next year? Well, yes. Hence the reason I offered Rio Ferdinand that $5,000 charity bet, mate. That, you know, he probably hasn't seen. I'm not arrogant enough to think he's seen it and just gone, nah, not spending that. So yeah, I do, mate. Because I think we're further along in our development. That's genuinely my answer. It's not because I'm going, you know, United are shy or ratting. I think Sancho, good piece of business. Centre back and a central midfielder are two positions United need to strengthen, and we'll be getting a lot of our players back. So look, yeah, I do. I've got to say, starting the season, I'm confident, but anything can happen as we've seen this season. Right, Nico Williams. So here's the latest on Nico Williams. There's apparently been interest over the last few months from a whole host of clubs, including Leeds United and a few others. And it's the player. I think Liverpool will be happy to keep Nico Williams. But if the player himself wants to go on and wants a chance to play regular football, I don't think the club will stand in his way. Conor Bradley, and this is the part that really gets me, right? No problem with looking at Conor Bradley and going, okay, one for the future. He could come through. He could challenge Trent or be back up to Trent at some point. But where I draw the line is with this whole Joe Gomez can play right back as well. He can, but Joe Gomez can also be injured a lot. And the last thing, and again, that's not a slight on Joe, he's a great footballer. But the last thing that we need now is to be left with Trent picking up a knock, Joe Gomez also having a knock, and us having to rely on a really, really inexperienced young lad in Conor Bradley, who probably has a good career ahead of him, but isn't fair to have that much pressure on him at that young of an age. So if Liverpool get £10 million or so, maybe a few quid more for Nico Williams, and Nico Williams wants to move on, it looks like it's something that the club will be willing to do. But what worries me is the answer to that. It's not to go out and buy another right back. It's to give the young lad a chance, which again, I've got no issues with. If Klopp truly believes that Conor Bradley can come in and do a job, then I've got no issues. But we can also play Joe Gomez at right back. Part just doesn't wash for me, I'm sorry. Because Joe Gomez is not Trent Alexander-Arnold and cannot do the things that Trent Alexander-Arnold can do. Fabinho can play at right back, we know that as well. Milner can play at right back, doesn't mean it's right. So, yeah, it's frustrating, I have to say. If Nico does go, ideally you'd want to be going out and getting another right back. Somebody who can come in and really slip in if we need to rest Trent or rotate. Dumfries is a great shout. Is he going to want to come in though, realistically? Dumfries is having a great Euros, PSV Eindhoven player, good player. But is he really going to want to come in and be challenging or back up to Trent Alexander-Arnold? I doubt it. But, you know, he's a good player. I mean, I won't disagree with you there, but he's going to want to move to a club where he can go and play week in and week out. Why did we let go of Hoover, said Brooklyn? As you know, kind of not part of the deal, but at the same time that we got Diogo Jota, Keanu Hoover went to Wolves, and it was one that left a lot of us scratching our heads at the time because, you know, we brought him in and he looked really promising, Keanu Hoover. And yeah, weird one. I do agree with you. I mean, we could be sitting here now having Keanu Hoover as an option, so yeah, strange one. Neuhaus and Malen news, there isn't really any Vernon. I mean, and there won't be any other in the Euros, realistically. Neuhaus, obviously part of the German squad that will be knocking England out in the last 16, wink wink, nudge nudge. And yeah, same with Malen, he's part of the Dutch squad, and I would imagine if anything is to happen, the more and more the days go by, two things we know for sure. One, Liverpool certainly have been looking at Neuhaus, and I think a lot of clubs in Europe have. But also, I really get the feeling that he's going to end up at Bayern Munich. I mean, I know he's denied the rumour himself that it's almost lined up that he'll go to Bayern Munich next season, but I can't shake it. I have a feeling that if Bayern Munich want them, usually German players are happy to stay in Germany, particularly with Bayern, who are the most prominent club in Germany. So, yeah, that's one to keep an eye on. But again, we won't have an answer anytime imminently. What about Tsimikas or Larouci? Larouci's gone. Quinch, Larouci's gone. Tsimikas, there was a few stories to suggest we could be willing to sell him, but everything that I'd read from, and I think I can even attribute quotes to Kloppo on this, suggested that Klopp thought that Tsimikas was ready to go into this season to provide backup to Andy Robertson, who has played every single minute, I think, of Premier League football and played a lot of international games for Scotland as well. Ruben Neves not really being linked with Liverpool. I think Wolves are open to selling Ruben Neves this summer. They are looking to free up some money to get a few new additions. I just don't think we need Ruben Neves right now. And if we did need him, or we did want them, well, as I've said to you before, Pep Linders coached him for 6 or 7 years at Porto when he was coming through at underage level. So very easy to make contact there. And I would imagine Pep Linders knows only too well about Ruben Neves. So yeah. Oh, we've got Ben Davies as well. Yeah. I mean, Jesus, we're talking about centre-backs earlier, and I completely was sleeping on Ben Davies because none of us have seen him kick a football for Liverpool yet. So there is Ben Davies as well, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, honestly, that just completely slipped my mind till somebody put it in the chat there. Rohan, thank you. Liverpool received a bid for Tsimikas in January, which was rejected. Well, let's be fair, we were hardly going to be moving out anybody else in January, were we, when we were struggling for defenders left, right and centre. Locatelli joining Juventus, said David Newell. Again, similar thing to Germans, mate. A lot of the Italian players like to stay in the Italian league. Right, let's have a talk about Kabak for a minute, because news started to come out today, and I think it's been attributed to Bild or Sport Bild, one or the other, that suggests it was actually Jurgen Klopp that made the decision not to take up the option to buy Ozan Kabak. Now, this kind of, in my head, links back to two things. One, Ben Davies, as Rohan rightly pointed out there a second ago, and also Nat Phillips. Because if you're going to get 10 to 15 million for Nat Phillips, and we know that Schalke are in a perilous financial position, can't really afford to be paying his wages, as has been reported, because, you know, they're in trouble, then surely there was a deal there to be done, and you take that money and you bring in Ozan Kabak, and then you're absolutely sorted at centre-back with Kabak, Matip, Van Dijk, Gomez, Konate, and Ben Davies, if he's still around, as well as the youngsters that are at the club. Send Reece Williams out on loan, maybe send Billy Comedio out on loan, and we're pretty stocked. But if we do move him on, maybe we will actually see Ben Davies next season. I honestly believe that Ben Davies would move over the summer. He was supposed to sign for Celtic before we came in at the last minute and offered Preston £500,000 for him. His contract was going to be up at the end of that season, so he was going to sign on a pre-contract agreement to go up and join with Celtic. And I'd kind of thought that maybe we'd sell him for a low fee, but maybe the plan genuinely is. Maybe Klopp's liked what he's seen of him, I don't know. Any news on pre-season friendlies? The only thing that I really know is that we may be playing a friendly against Rangers. That's all I know. No dates have been released yet. I think Liverpool and other clubs are waiting for more government guidance around maybe getting fans back in and stuff like that. So there you go. That's the only thing I know. I've actually seen United mentioned as a possible friendly as well. If we get rid of Nico and Tsimikas, don't replace them, I'll be furious. I'll be with you, Ginger Ninja. I'll be just as furious, mate. Joanne, that's a different Joanne Fisher. That's not our regular Joanne Fisher. But hello. Anyway, Mick, nice to see you in the chat. I don't think we need any first teamer, says Mick. Just better subs than we have. I understand where you're coming from, Mick, but I don't like the term first teamers and subs. I like to think that anybody we sign should be able to be automatically put in and out of the team. If someone needs a rest, bring them in, and we shouldn't see a drop off in level. And that's one thing we've noticed, particularly in the attacking department over the past season or two, is when Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane, Bobby Firmino and now Diogo Jota pick up a knock, and we look to the bench and we bring in Shaqiri or we bring in Origi, there's a drop off, and there's a pretty big drop off. Now Shaqiri's doing well at the Euros for Switzerland, scored 2 goals the other night, one of them an absolute belter, but I still think he'll move on. He's had too many injuries at Liverpool as well, and you know, there's been brief glimpses of the magic that he has in that foot of his, but yeah, I just think, Mick, I kind of agree to disagree. I get where you're coming from, but I don't want any more squad players. I want people that, you know, can be slid in. One goes out, one goes in, and we're not seeing much of a drop off in level. Hope that makes sense anyway. Thoughts on Moore's performance for Wales at the Euros? I don't know, mate, is the honest answer. Right, Renato Sanchez looked class tonight, which he did. Mate, Sterling will not re-sign. I don't know what you mean with us, and I've never said Raheem Sterling was going to sign for Liverpool. All I've said is it looks like he's surplus to requirements at Manchester City and may be offered as part of the Kane deal if Spurs were to want it, although I don't see Spurs being able to pay his wages. Did PSG tell Mbappe to leave? Again, not that I'm aware of. In fact, quite the opposite. I think PSG are doing everything they can to try and tie Kylian Mbappe down to a new contract. What will make it interesting is if Mbappe makes it clear to PSG that he doesn't want to stay and he moves or will move wherever that may be. It'll make it really interesting to see if Mauricio Pochettino and the PSG board look towards Harry Kane, because Harry Kane and Mohamed Salah are the two names that have most been mentioned with possible replacements at PSG if Mbappe was to move. And, none of us want to see Mohamed Salah leaving Liverpool, so yeah, keep an eye on that scenario as well. Jeremy Doku, Liverpool 1708, wants to talk about. I mean, you've seen what he was about the other night for Belgium, mate. I mean, I really got to see what many other people had seen before me, that there was a quality player there. I didn't know much about Jeremy Doku, if I'm being honest with you. I know that he was, shown around Liverpool, maybe had a trial or trained with Liverpool when he was 16, went back. I think he played for Anderlecht, now he's playing in France. Still very young though, what is he, 18, 19 years of age? So, yeah, that's a profile of signing you can look at and go, yeah, absolutely can see how that takes place, because if you're looking to the future and you see Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah getting on in age a little bit, maybe slowing down, then you look at, okay, well then you could have Jeremy Doku, you could have Harvey Elliott, you can see the next generation, you can see the next phase in Klopp's development, so that makes sense. Whereas some of the links are just scratching my head going, I don't see why these are there. Evening Goat, thank you very much, Lee. Musiala is some talent. He is. He's a great young footballer. Doku rejected us 2 years ago. He did, but because he wanted to go and show what he can do, which he has done. So it's probably been the right decision. And if Liverpool wanted him, which we may do, we'd come back. And it looks like we may well come back. So that's the type of situation I think you need to give massive credit to the player. Same with Jadon Sancho. Same with Jude Bellingham. When they left England and they said, you know what, I'm going to prove myself elsewhere, and then the English clubs will come back in and I'll get the move anyway, but I'll probably get the opportunity to play a lot more than I would if I was in England. And you've got to say, probably the right decision. What else we got? I feel sly on Kabak. I feel like Liverpool, he loves Liverpool. How about you? Oh, he does, Quinch. I mean, you've seen him say before, why would he want to leave? It's Liverpool. And I feel like there's a deal to be done there. I really do. I'm Klopp sees more of this players on the training ground than we do. Klopp will be a better judge of character. I mean, he was a centre-back himself, so it does feel a bit sad, because the player clearly wanted to try and impress at Liverpool, and, he's still a very young centre-back, but, it's looking like Klopp will make the decision that he's not right fit for Liverpool, and I'm not going to sit here and second-guess the manager. What have we got? I don't think McGinn is worth £50 million, nor do I, Fraser. But then again, when somebody rightly pointed out in the chat earlier on, we can sit here and say he's not worth £50 million, but would we take him if he was there and we didn't have to pay £50 million? Because as fans, do we really care what we pay as long as we improve the team? That's a conundrum I'm often struggling with, to be honest with you. You look at the headline figure, you look at the fee, but at the end of the day, as fans, that's not really our concern too much. Our concern is only really with the strength of squad that we have. And I have to say, if you did bring McGinn in, I think we would have another option in midfield, another good option in midfield. So, yeah, I can be a bit hypocritical at times, and I think we all can around situations like that. I don't know, there is the argument, of course, that the money would be taken away, 50 million instead of maybe 25. Probably means you're not signing another player because you spent 50 million quid. So there's that argument, fair enough. But other than that, I mean, as a player, McGinn's a tidy footballer. What else we got? 65,000 people going to Wembley next few weeks. The government have made the rod for their own backs. How can they stop fans going to pre-season friendlies? I mean, it's not my place to really say, buddy, about... I mean, you're right, about, I think it's 60 or 65,000 going to be at Wembley for... I'm not sure if it's the semis and the finals of the Euro or the finals, but... Yeah, you are right. Look, ladies and gentlemen, Connor has put a link into the chat there now. We also have an Anfield Agenda Clips channel. It's called Anfield Agenda Extra, where Connor takes up clips from the long streams and puts them up there in 3, 4, 5 minute form for people that aren't able to sit through an hour long stream or a 40-minute stream. So it's been doing really well for us. People seem to really enjoy the shorter clips as well. So please do hit that subscribe button there or click that link at the top. when the stream's over, go over and subscribe to Anfield Agenda Extra. And for those of you that keep sending me suggestions for my renaming of Mundo Sporto, if I do go up and take up a more regular position at That's Football, I'll probably kill off Mundo Sporto. I say kill off, I'll rejig it into a channel for me. So let's just say it's called Craig Holden TV, which it won't be because I have a name, but let's just say that don't unsubscribe, because there's going to be lots of great fun content coming up on what is now Mundo Sporto. And again, Mundo Sporto could well stay exactly as it is. I haven't made any decisions yet about what's going on. Are you going to do more watch-alongs on That's Football? I'll be doing more Euro stuff on there. Certainly, I think, I'm not sure, maybe Monday, Tuesday? I definitely am doing more stuff on there, yes, but I don't know exactly when yet. We're waiting for the fixtures to be, confirmed and stuff with the Euros, who's playing who and all that kind of stuff. Craig Enda. No, it's not going to have the word agenda in it or any reference to agenda, or it's going to be nothing to do with football, but I do have a name and I think it works. And it was suggested to me by a friend who knows who he is, so thank you. And yeah, there you go. Keep watch this space is all I'll say. Right, what else have we got, ladies and gentlemen? We've got about 10 minutes or so left on tonight's stream. Don't forget to check out the Instagram account, because we'll be making an unpopular opinions video tomorrow. If you've got any of those unpopular opinions you'd like me to address, please do go over to Anfield Agenda's Instagram account, which hit 40k today, so thank you. It's brilliant that we finally hit 40k on Instagram. Thank you very much for that. Still can't believe you settled on Excalibur, said Connor. Yeah, I didn't, but I do feel like there should be some type of graphic for Excalibur, Connor. I do feel like it should be a thing. I feel like I should have like my own version of like a lightsaber or something, but like it be Excalibur. I like the look of Lamptey, said entertainment only. Yeah, obviously left Chelsea because a lot of players in front of him there at Chelsea. Went to Brighton and has looked really, really good at Brighton. And Tariq Lamptey is a fine footballer. He had an injury, obviously, that kept him out for a while this season, but he does look like the real deal. He really does. And again, another player who chose the option of going and moving away from maybe his comfort zone to go get regular first-team football. Are you going to take a holiday, Craig? Come to South Africa, so? I don't know is the honest answer. So I'm fully vaccinated. My wife is getting her first jab on, I think, the 4th or the 7th of July, something like that. And she should be technically fully done by August. But then again, our kids won't be vaccinated, nor is my youngest one old enough to. And I don't like the idea of having to go on a holiday and, be stressing the entire holiday about having to get a test done for the kids before they come home. Because heaven forbid, even if they are asymptomatic or something, you're stuck then in a foreign country and you have to, isolate for 2 weeks with them, and, you have another hotel bill and you have to change your flights. And I really, I'm not that well off that I can afford to be doing that type of stuff. Well, I say that well off. I'm not well off at all, but yeah, I don't know. That's the honest answer. I am going away in January with my wife to Lanzarote. We both turn 40 over the next couple of months, so we're going away in Lanzarote in January together, which is going to be cool. Right, what else have we got? How are the kids? Good, thank you. Yeah, really good. My little lad's still in primary school. They don't finish up until the end of the week or the end of next week. And my daughter finished up, but she's supervising the Leaving Cert exam. So, yeah, all good, thank you, mate. Family's all good, which is all I can hope for. Everyone good, fit, healthy, happy me, so. Cade Gordon opinion, said James. Yeah, a very good transfer, but another one that I don't want to put too much pressure on. Brought him in from Derby County, as you know, fought off competition to get him, and certainly, Jack's brilliant at academy stuff, Jack Gill, so the next time I get Jack on, definitely ask Jack, because Jack watches a lot of the academy football, so best to ask Jack Gill that question. But they're in Lanzarote come January, bro. I'll be there in Lanzarote come January, bro. There you go, James. Come and say hello if you see me wandering around anywhere. But yeah, we are going to Lanzarote in January. It's all booked, so I'm really looking forward to that. Do I drive a Porsche? No. I drive a 2007. And by the way, bear in mind that we recently just took out a loan and upgraded this to this. But yeah, we drive a 2017 Renault Megane GT, a white one. It's a really nice one, but it is 4 years old, and I'll be paying for it for the next 3, so there you go. Porsche wouldn't be me anyway. It's not my cup of tea. I'm more of a Volvo XC90 type of fella. Love it. South African LFC fans here. Yeah, there's always loads of great South African fans in the chat. Liverpool fans, I mean, not me fans. I'm not arrogant enough to think I have fans, but, you know, yeah, loads of great South African Reds. Right, a couple more bits and pieces before we finish up. Who's the young 17-year-old we recently signed? So, you're talking about, I think, the guy Fatawu. So apparently James Pearce has said that we haven't signed him, but I think that we legally maybe can't sign him because of international rules, maybe till he's 18. So there's a train of thought that believes that we will actually sign the kid and he will go on loan to Sporting Lisbon for a season or two. Actually, it said an unspecified time, till he gets minutes under his belt and perhaps gets a work permit to be able to come in and play in the Premier League. So keep an eye on that space. But as of yet, technically, legally, I don't think we've signed him. Anything on Nico Williams? I spoke about him earlier on. It seems that the player himself may want to get a move to go and play some regular football, and that Liverpool are willing to do business maybe in excess of £10 million. What have we got? So people are saying, could you give a shout out to my granddad? You see, I'm always wary, Dean, that I'm getting baited when somebody puts a name in. Say hello to your granddad, no problem. But it's when the name comes in that I'm always thinking, yeah, this is probably somebody baiting me into saying the name that's a porn star or somebody I don't understand. So if it is your granddad, of course I'll say hello and I wish him a happy birthday sincerely. But I don't know if you're trying to bait me or not. So what have we got? Craig, I'm a fan, United fan by the way. Go, thank you very much, mate. Nice to see you in. Connor's asked into the chat, will Brexit affect transfers like that? Could do. I mean, I don't know off the top of my head what the work permit rules are now for the UK with regards to players from Europe or elsewhere, but often you do see players going to Spain or Portugal to get that European passport eventually, to get citizenship and then make the move. Now, some Brazilians, I think, I'm open to being corrected on this, but I think that there's a good chunk of Brazilians that have both Portuguese and Brazilian passports, or at least have the ability to gain a Portuguese passport when they come from Brazil. So that often is the reason why you see that route being taken. Like the guy is Goncalves, isn't he Brazilian? The guy who, he could be Portuguese actually, but the guy who came in to replace Bruno Fernandes at Sporting Lisbon. Think we'll see Trent in midfield? Not if we're not going to be buying another right back, mate, no. You know, if we're letting Nico go because Trent is there and because Gomez can play right back and Conor Bradley can play right back, then there doesn't seem to be any suggestion that we're going to see Trent in midfield. Mark said, Craigo, opinion on signing Rafinha? I wouldn't have any issues with it, but I can't see it happening this summer unless there's a drastic change of pace from Leeds. So I think the player himself has even said that, you know, he's happy to stay at Leeds for another season. He's settled there. I think Bielsa going to sign on for another contract in another year. He may have done that already. And yeah, he's feeling the love at Leeds and he played really well this season. So one to keep an eye on. Definitely the calibre of player that we should be looking at. Bissouma to Liverpool. Tom, at the start of the window, at the start of the summer, I would have said to you that Bissouma would be the most likely, to me, would have been the most obvious, the most likely transfer. But then other clubs start getting linked to him. And then the price went from 35 million up to apparently 50 million, which seems to be the magic number this summer, by the way. Every midfielder seems to be 50 million quid. So, as a player, Bissouma's grand. Yeah, done a very good job at Brighton, progressed well, and you could absolutely see him coming in and filling the squad place where Gini Wijnaldum has departed. But my big question is, why are we even sitting here talking about midfielders? Why the fuck haven't we still got Gini Wijnaldum at the club? Why didn't we give him the 3-year contract that he wanted? I'll never be able to get my head around that one. You see him doing really great stuff again for the Dutch national team at the Euros, and yes, I know he gets to play. More forward for the Dutch national team than he did at Liverpool. He gets a bit more license to break forward. So there you go. That's never going to sit right with me. I'll never ever understand why we didn't sign him on a new contract. Never. Is Canada going to take the number 5 shirt? Would be the sensible suggestion, wouldn't it? You know, Genie shirt frees up, he comes in and takes it. I'd imagine so. I'd say the smart money would certainly be on the number 5 shirt. Opinion on Renato Sanchez. Again, my opinion has changed over the last few months. You know, when I thought of Renato Sanchez when he was first linked to Liverpool, I thought of the flop at Bayern Munich and the flop at Swansea. But I didn't take into account the fact that he'd gone to France, and I didn't actually take. It was my own ignorance. I didn't take the time to actually watch the guy, and he has shown in Lille and with Portugal that he's definitely still got it, and that maybe it was just the wrong move at the wrong time from in his career. So again, type of player that you can see Klopp looking at as a diamond in the rough, or an undervalued asset that could maybe be brought in and turned into a global superstar. So again, yeah, absolutely right type of profile player. But I don't know if interest is there, definitely being watched. I just don't know if it'll translate to a bid. Right, look, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to go off into the night and watch some Copa America. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget tomorrow, actually I'll be live tomorrow night as per normal, so no need to worry about that. It'll be about 8:45 tomorrow again, because there's no Euros games on, so we'll be live from 8:45 tomorrow. Then on Friday we'll be putting out 2 videos. One, the unpopular opinions, which you can get your questions in by going over to the Anfield Agenda Instagram account, and then we'll be putting out this week's latest One Football news show. So look, thank you again, you guys, for coming in. Really appreciate it. It's been a really busy few weeks, hasn't it? I know. I can't wait till the lads get back into pre-season and we can start to look ahead to another campaign for the Reds. And I'm still smiling that we've got Champions League football to look forward to, because, you know, who would have thought 6 or 7 weeks ago that we'd have Champions League football? Who would have thought before Alisson headed that ball into the net we'd have had Champions League football? Madness, but somehow we did it. Somehow we finished 3rd. And yeah, it's going to be amazing. So look forward to a new campaign. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a great evening. Lots of love to all your families from my family. Take care. Hit that subscribe